How many of you have a hard time being 100% present for a conversation, whether it be with your child, a friend, or a colleague? Do you find yourself actually running forward, thinking about what you're going to say next, and not fully paying attention to what's being said? My name is Suzanne Hart. Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. And today our conversation is the powerful truth about why, think about this, our conditioning interrupts our ability to listen. My conditioning, your conditioning at times may get in the way of us actually hearing what someone has to say. This is for you if you think that sometimes you prejudge other people and it gets in the way of you being able to collaborate, listen, and truly get to know them. This is for you if you want to bring your ability to listen and connect to a whole new level. So I am so excited for this conversation. So as you come on, I'm going to ask you to do what I usually do. Please let us know who you are, where exactly you're joining us from, and what brought you out tonight. If you have a question about listening and communication, definitely put it in the comment section, because my guest and I are going to begin to unpack what it means to truly, authentically listen. Also, let us know what you do while you're living and who you're called to serve. Who is that group of people that you're just passionate to connect with? And of course, I'm going to ask you to share, bless a life. Bless the life of a friend. Invite them over to come listen. Put it in a group that you hang out in. Put it on your page. Share the knowledge with somebody who is about to make and are working towards making their best better. If you're listening to the replay, #replay, thank you for joining us. And when you love what you hear, go ahead and share it to your page, tag a friend and say, you've got to be part of this conversation. Also, although it's in the replay, put your name and who you are, where you come from, and who you're called to serve in the comment section. Let us know what you do and what you are passionate about. And also, if you have questions, leave them in the comment section because we will definitely get to it. So I am so excited for this conversation. As I introduce my guest, or before I introduce my guest, I got to tell you, I am so excited she's here. So the topic, powerful truths about why your conditioning might be interrupting your ability to listen. This is for you if you find yourself not always present when you're having a conversation with someone, or you find yourself running ahead and not fully listening because you're concentrating and thinking about the next thing you have to say. If you're in sales, this conversation will be valuable. If you want to create a deeper connection with the people in your life, this conversation is definitely for you. All right, well, welcome, Des. So nice to have you out. Who else? I see we have Taria's in the house. I know we'll have a number of people joining us soon. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So the beautiful person I have the pleasure to introduce. I'm going to read the information because impressive. Can I just say that? This person is a speaker and a trainer. She's an author of the best-selling book Build It Big. Another book, Mom Entrepreneur Extraordinaire. She has over 19 years experience owning her own business. Now, when you see her, you'll go, I don't know how that happened, because she's kind of looking young, but she's got 19 years experience. And part of that, she has been in collaboration with her dynamic mom. And I won't give away the name yet, because then you'll know exactly who she is. She was recently honored the National Advocate of the Year for Working Mothers. Also, Outstanding Mother of the Year by the American Lung Association. Now, that is an honor, because what that means is she's holding it down at home and doing what she's called to do at home, but also holding it down in the business world. And if you're a woman, you understand that is definitely a feat. She's a devoted wife and mother of not 2 children, but 8. I'm going to say that again. Mother of 8 children. But what I love about this woman and why I really wanted to sit down with her was that the first time I met her, she was part of the Direct Selling Women's Alliance, the DSWA. So you got a clue right there. And when we talked, I felt like I was the only person in the room. But it didn't just happen the first time, it happened every time we sat down. So when I wanted to talk about listening, there was no one else other than this woman. She's got a heart that is definitely one of service, and she is committed to making you better. Please help me welcome Nikki Keohohou.
Oh my goodness.
Keohohou. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Grace Keohohou.
Yes.
So I gave away mom now too, right?
Yes, you gave away the mom. Exactly. Oh my goodness, Suzanne, it is such an honor to be here with you and with all of your distinguished guests. Yes, I'm so grateful. Wow.
I am so excited to have you. And it's interesting because as I was doing the introduction, I said, don't call her mom's name. Because when I think of the two of you, I think of you like this, right? And Grace, this is like so exciting, and definitely a treat for every single person listening. So before we jump in, tell everyone listening just an insight into who you are. And the reason I'm chuckling, I'm going to give the audience a little bit of a look behind the scenes, is that when you sent me your resume and you said a few of the companies I have worked with, and there was a list of like 20. And they were like chambers, this place in Australia, this place here. Like when we're talking international speaker, you are killing it.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. It's a privilege to be able to speak into someone's life, whether that be an audience of one or an audience of thousands. That invitation to make a deposit and plant seeds and then water those seeds with questions and connection, and then create a space for an increase in their life. That's a privilege. So I get to, and that's, I think, one of the key ingredients to success is a get to perspective, where I choose, I expect, I feel grateful for, versus I have to, I need to, I must. Even being able to transition and reframe and frame up the way we communicate with others and ourselves. The first person we'll ever speak to is us. So being mindful of the words that we're using, that's our first audience. And then our second audience, it trickles out from there. So yeah, it's a get to. It's definitely a get to.
And you take coaching, one of the things that I admire about you is you take coaching very seriously, like it is an honor and a privilege. And when I sit down with you, I get that there's nothing for granted about the opportunity to sit in front of someone and have them trust you with their experiences.
Oh, it's sacred space. It's a sacred space. People are sharing. Often I hear people say, I've never told anyone else this. I can't even believe I'm saying this to you. I'll always remember this experience I had in one of my visits to New Zealand. I'm sitting in my room and I was preparing for different things that I was getting ready to teach. And the woman that was caring for my space, she went in and she was, fixing my room. She said, do you mind if I do this while you're here? I said, please be my guest. And so she started sharing, and as she's cleaning and preparing my room, she starts talking to me, and I'm asking her questions. I have never had my sheets tucked so so soundly. I think it was a 45-minute sheet tuck. You know what I mean? Like she started feeling that she could share and creating a space where people we're not only listening to them, we're hearing them, and we're creating a space for them to awaken. One of my favorite quotes is by a gentleman by the name of Karl Gustav, and he says, when those who look outside dream, those who look within awaken. And so when we create a space and listen to people, what's happening is that they're going within and awakening their possibility thinking. They're awakening their the ideas or the dreams or the vision that they have for their life that has been maybe dormant. That's what happens in the space of being heard and listened to. So yes, I do take coaching very seriously, whether they're preparing my room or whether I'm meeting them at a conference, whether I'm passing them in the aisle in a grocery store. One way to honor another human being is to listen to them, to acknowledge them, to say, I see you.
Yeah, I see you. You know, you made a statement, and I want to talk through the distinction for everyone listening. You made a distinction between listen and heard, right? And people will often, they'll be listening, they say, I hear you, but they haven't heard you. What's the difference?
Ooh, listen to me is passive. It can be a passive approach. Heard means that you have my entire presence. That what you say has merit, has value. When we hear someone, we're really receiving their message. And there is a gift in every interaction. Someone has something for us if we're willing to hear it. Each person we come in contact with has a little something for us if we're willing to hear it. See, I have not arrived, Suzanne, and all of you that are on this line, and we thank you for being here in this moment. I have not arrived. When I arrive, I am at the gates. You know what I mean? I'm at the gates. So when someone comes to me or someone picks up the phone and calls me or someone texts me, there is something that they have prepared for me to hear. And so we're not judging whether it's good or bad. There is a message, and how can this message be a gift and opportunity? That is an allied perspective, a gift and an opportunity. There was something else that was hitting me, and I meant to share it with you, and it'll come back to me. Oh, yes. Oh, here it is. Okay. See, I told you it'll come back. It'll come back. I call it a sidebar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when someone makes a statement, a person doesn't want to hear that we understand. They don't want to hear, oh, I understand. I had one woman, it was so fascinating. She was talking to me about the word understand in a class that we were teaching. And she said, I was so upset when this person said they understand. I had someone pass in my life and they're telling me they understand, and they had never faced that before. How could they understand? Or I had a situation with my child and they didn't have that situation, and then they're telling me they understand. They don't. They haven't walked a mile in my shoes. So I want to share with everyone on this line that understand can be a danger zone. That can be a danger zone. That can build a barrier. I can build a quick wall between you and the person between me and the person I'm connecting with, versus I hear you. Yeah. Or what would be important for me to know about what you're walking through in this moment? What would be important for me to know? How can I show up in service to you right now? See, I had a dear friend, best friend, she contacted me and she was crying. She was just really upset about something. And I said, who can I be in this moment for you? She was like,
oh, that's a powerful question. That's a powerful question. Who can I be in this moment for you?
Yes. And she was like, what do you mean? And we may get some of that.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I said, well, what is your preference? I can be a listening ear. I can be a mentor. I could be a coach. I could. And she goes, please listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Please be a listening ear. So sometimes in our effort to serve, we have assumptions. We think, oh, this is what this person needs. Let me just do that. Versus honoring them and saying, how can I show up?
Mm-hmm.
What
You
can I
know,
do?
that's so good. As you're talking, you bring me back to one of my supervisors, and I remember having this situation where I was working with a family, and the family wasn't divulging information. This is when I first started, and I was so frustrated. And I said, I don't know how to help them. And she said, well, what's wrong? I said, they're not telling me anything. And she said, why do you think you have to know everything? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And I go, how can I help them? How can I give them answers? Because your job's not to give them answers. And it was such an aha moment for me, because what she was saying to me was that my job was to listen, reflect back, and be who they needed me to be. And she said to me, ask them what they want to call the thing
What do you want to call that thing?
that
Yeah.
they didn't want to tell me. And it was so eye-opening for me, because I asked them what they wanted to call the thing. They said A. We worked for 3 weeks on A. To this day, I have no clue what A is. But what it had me do was to be present, like my life depended on it if I wanted to serve, because I couldn't get caught up in what I thought A was. I could only serve. And that forever changed things for me, because it was what she was saying to me is, Suzanne, be that listening ear, be that person, because they have the answers. They just need you to be present and be present and hear them. And I thought I needed to understand. I thought I needed to get it. I thought I needed to have the answers. No, I just needed to be the place where the family could come together and talk it through.
Yes. Oh, Suzanne, that's hot. That's hot. Because one thing that's coming to the surface with what you just shared, Suzanne, is in our desire to understand, our listening is for ourselves. In our
Mm-hmm.
desire to hold space, our listening is to contribute.
Oh, okay. Now you just went. That was like, that was money. That was money. That was so good. And it's so true. And just to start off, one of the things that when I was thinking of this, was I wanted to talk through conditioning,
Mm.
right? And how what we think we know, what we're conditioned to believe, what our experiences are, how that can color or shut down our listening. And I wanted to just for you to talk through that a little bit.
Ooh, yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, can we, we're revving up the engines here.
Yeah.
Revving up the engines. Okay. So when it comes to conditioning and presence and listening, oh my goodness. Okay. There's a few things. One is if you've ever driven a stick shift, like just put your stick shift in neutral for a moment. Just do that real quickly. My father taught me how to drive a stick shift in a mortuary parking lot. And I said, did you have thoughts around that? Is there a purpose to that, Dad? Oh my gracious, when we're in neutral with our listening, that's where we can really be in the moment, and we can hear with many facets of our being. So when we can hear with many facets, so there's a few thoughts. One is even on this screen right now, as you're plugging into this message, our bodies shriek before our mouth speaks. Our bodies shriek before our mouth speaks. And so when we're really neutral and present in our listening, we're observing not just with our ears. Usually people think, well, you're hearing with your ears. Oh, it's so far beyond that. We get to hear with our eyes. We get to hear with our ears. We get to hear with our heart. In our culture, we call it our na'au, our gut, our instinct, or Holy Spirit. We get to listen from this space, the wholeness, so that when we hear that, then we know what to ask next. When we hear in a neutral space, we will be able to discern what to ask next that will again serve this person, because it's not about our clarity and understanding, it's about their clarity and understanding, their awakening, their possibility thinking. As Roy Disney once said, he goes, become a possibilitarian. Their possibility thinking, so that we are well, this is a way of putting it. To me, listening, it's almost like a form of agape love. Agape love is a sacrificial love. It's one of the highest forms of love. Agape love is that I'm going to set my belief systems on the side for this moment right now, so I can meet you in the place that you are at. So that I can be who I am meant to be, so that you can walk away from this interaction with clarity. Oh my goodness, there's a quote that I absolutely love. It's on my Facebook. Let me just get an amen here for a second. I'm going to pull it up because it's so powerful. It's Stephen Covey's quote, and I absolutely love it. One hot second here, because it's so timely right now, and I will memorize it. I love quotes. I'm all about the quotes. So let me give credit where credit is due. This is Stephen Covey, and this is the key right here, just to what you've asked. As you care less about what people think of you, you will care more about what others think of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Great quote. Great quote. It is, you're talking about present. And that is, for many of us, the hardest thing to do is to be present. And when we both speak, right? We both are speakers, and we're both very similar speakers. And I know you speak from the present, and as do I. So we don't speak from memory. We don't speak from written stuff. What you get is what you get, right? And I tell people that the reason I speak that way is it requires that I'm present. And it requires, I call it, I dance with the audience. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because in that moment, when I'm truly in my listening, when I've put my agenda on the side, when I've put what I've prepared on the side, and what I prepared is kind of what I know, but it's not as important as what's needed, I will hear when things land. I will hear when people stop breathing in the room. I will hear when someone is emotionally touched, and I hear it, and I don't know why I hear it, but I hear it, I get it. And that feeds me, and I generate in the moment. And I tell people it is a surrender and a presence, and you get the best of me, because I can't prepare that. And so, and I love what you're talking about, is because I have to suspend my beliefs. I have to suspend what I prepared. And yes, it's there. It is the structure that holds me, but it's the audience that feeds me.
Oh, yes. That's why I love you so much. Yes. Because it's not about what we think is the message. It's not about what you thought. Oh, you could have spent weeks, days, months, years, decades in preparing a speech, that when you walk into the room, you're cued in that's not what will have impact. That's not what would be of greatest service. And what I appreciate about you, Suzanne, is that you are an agile communicator. Communicators with the greatest flexibility create mutually flourishing relationships. Mutually flourishing. Notice we didn't say win-win relationships, because when there is a winner, there is a loser. What I believe you are gifted at is agility in your communication, to be able to meet people where they're at and therefore serve them greatly with your better best.
That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you. So let me ask you this, because when we talk about conditioning, we're talking about beliefs, we're talking about biases, we're talking about all our stereotypings, all our ways we think people are. And I guess if I were listening, I'd go, well, how do you shelf that and listen? Like, how do you truly shelf that and listen? So how is that?
Okay.
I know what I can say to it, but I want to do yours first.
I want to hear you too. I'm like, yeah, there's several things. One is that it's almost like I take a little bath after each conversation that I have, so that I step in fresh. So, I mean, if you do this with me real quick, even if people look at you like, okay, what's going on over there? You're listening to me cafe and someone's like, okay, someone has lost it, and then just whoosh, wash it off. This little physical gesture, it may seem small to me, though it is a reset and a refresh, so that I come into each conversation optimized, and so that I can sync up with greater ease with the person that I'm interacting with, so that I'm not bringing in my own luggage or someone else that I just spoke with into the conversation. So this is a little quick physiology to clear. The other thing is I'll use my physical gestures. So I'll say, I'm going to set this on the side so I can be in the moment with this person. Also, yes, and so one of my prayers before I ever hit a stage or come on to something like this, one of my thoughts, my prayers, my intentions is very clear. So what I mean by that is, let the message be the message that you've intended for your people, and let them know that it is you. So I see myself as a messenger, not the message.
Got it.
And I like to create a space for people to share what their message is, so that I can carry that with me for the rest of my journey. Coaches, if I was talking to the CEO of the Worldwide Association of Business Coaches, I've known her for years. And when I went and had a conversation with her, I said, if coaches only knew, if we only realized that we're actually the ones on the receiving end of the greatest gift, we wouldn't charge for our coaching. We would gift our coaching, because, and not that I do anymore, because I value my time so much, and because we're tapping into the creative wisdom, genius, insights, innovations, wisdom, brilliance with each conversation. So we walk away with more than we gave. See, we're not learning when we're talking. We are learning when we're listening.
Ooh. Oh, somebody put that in the comment section. We're not learning when we're talking. We're learning when we're listening. So true. So true. So true. As you're saying that, I think this is the backdrop of leaving it on the side for me, because I think it is leaving it on the side. I remind myself two things. One is, I I must be one aware of my biases, my judgments, my stereotypes, to be able to leave it on the side. So I think my first ability to listen is to know what I bring with me that I have to leave on the side. And so that's the first part of it. So I know that there's conversations that I know I'm going to go into, and I actually have to tell myself, Suzanne, you got to leave this over here so that you can truly be present and hear. You got to leave this over here. I think the other thing is, and people, when they talk to me, I tell them this all the time. It's not about right or wrong, good or bad. It's about getting clear on what is, right? And so for me, it's really suspending my need to be right, the need to be. So I'm right, they're wrong. This is good, this is bad. But in order for us to uncover stuff, we have to let those things go and get to the what is of the situation. And once we get past the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, all those stuff, we create the clearing for non-judgmental sharing, right? But I have to do my work. And sometimes I got to do my work to go, I'm going to leave this over here, right? And in those moments, as you said, I learned so much. I remember, and like you, the clients I've worked with are my best teachers. So I remember two clients, very similar situations. So my beginning was child protection, and having to go and remove a child from a home, drug home, like the home that we all have the stuff about. And as we're removing this child, mom is angry, expected, but then she begins to cry. And this cry is only the cry that a mother can cry. And in that moment, you hear her. And it's always been so clear to me, big teaching, because it didn't matter the circumstances. It was the heart of a mother. And it reminded me that it doesn't matter the circumstances. This is the heart of a mom, and it's breaking right now. And so when we suspend we put this over here, we can hear the truth of the person, the pain of the person, the stuff that's not easily heard. And I think what you also hear is you hear the unset. You hear the unspoken. You hear those things that people can't yet say because you've got to hear them and give them the space and let them, through who you're being for them, know, I got you. I hear it. And also I'm able to receive whatever it is without my stuff, without my judgment. I'm able to receive it.
Yes. Oh gosh, Suzanne. Wow, to hear the cry of a mother, the pain, I mean, and how that left this lingering, staying. And if there would have been judgment, if there would have been something else brought in, perspectives, experiences, right or wrong, good or bad, that moment may have been clouded.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right. And so for me, it is in order for you and I to listen it to the level that we're capable of, I got to do my inner work.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Uh-huh. Oh, yes. Oh, goodness, yes, Suzanne. I mean, if we're not doing our inner work, we're showing up in a mediocre manner. We're not giving our better best to that person. And so sometimes, even in conversations, my schedule will align with with what I know is on it. Meaning, if I know that this is something it's a sacred conversation that's an opportunity for better preparation to be able to set it on the side, then that's what I'm going to do. Um, so being mindful of how do we set up our space to listen and to be present. And now more than ever, it's challenging because we're working on this most of the day. We're working on this a lot of the time. And so or we're in person, and so rather than looking at what's around the person, be in the moment. What am I meant to hear? What am I meant to what and I listen for emotionally charged words. When somebody says something to me, I'm listening for an emotionally charged word. I'm listening for repetition. I'm listening for um, I'm listening for softness in the voice, a change in the tonality, or I'm listening for a lengthy pause. Usually when you provide a question, which is where we can create the space for listening, when we can provide a question, what happens is when there's a long pause, we have often hit a soft place. And so one thing that we can do to damage that space is to interrupt it. So I want you to imagine when somebody is quiet, it's not that our signal has dropped. You know what I mean? It is not that they didn't hear our question. It is that they are going in the process of creating an opportunity for elevated thinking. Their thoughts and their emotions are elevating.
Mm-hmm.
If we interrupt that thought elevation, it's almost like we are bursting their thought bubble. We're sending off an arrow and bursting it. And sometimes those thoughts, that pattern interrupt, that's when somebody comes in and storms into our office unexpectedly, and we stop for a second. We're like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? What was my name again? What's my name?
Yeah.
It's because our thought process, our momentum was disrupted. And that's what's happening if we go in to finish someone's sentence, if we interrupt the pattern or the silence. So if there was nothing else that I could share in this time, I would want to share this. Silence is heaven's gap.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Mm.
heaven's gap.
Well said. Well said. One of the things when I train and when I train online, I never mute the lines. And people are always like, why don't you mute the lines? Because I need to hear the stuff, right? I need to hear the pause. I need to hear when the energy leaves the line. I need to hear when more energy's on the line. I need to hear the stuff. And I know a lot of times, unless people train with me, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's exactly what it is, because when the lines are muted, you don't hear the pause the way you hear it when you're on a fresh line. When the lines are muted, you don't hear the change in energy. You don't feel it in the same way when the line is open. And so what you're talking about is their pauses are. It's like this place where the work is happening, right? And when things land, there's a way that the energy changes when it's like when it drops in, you feel it, and you're like, ooh, something dropped. I felt it. There's a shift. And so I love what you're saying, because you're talking about listening not with just our ears, but with our entire being. But you're also talking about trusting the process of listening. And the process of listening, there's a lot of silence.
Oh yes. And to be to exercise that muscle. That's a muscle that we can
Mhm.
strengthen. That's a muscle we can strengthen because they will fill the silence. I've been on 30 minutes. I was thinking about this 30-minute call. I asked 3 questions. 30-minute call, 3 questions. That was the extent of my share. And they left that call and they were like, I have clarity. I'm clear. And think about this. Brene Brown said it so brilliantly. She said, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So
Mhm.
when you can create a space for someone to walk away from that conversation, there is an ongoing impression that stays with them. And they have clarity, and it's their own clarity, and they own it. See, when
Mhm.
we listen and people bring forward their own ideas, they own them. And when somebody
Absolutely.
owns their own idea, they are more likely to activate on it. They're more likely to move in that direction with passion, vigor, purpose. It's not, oh, I'll try that. That was your idea. Oh, I like it. I'll try it. Trying is not doing.
Mhm.
And when somebody says to me they're going to try, it's likely that they're not doing it. That's
And absolutely. And you know what you're speaking to is you're creating the place for transformation to happen. Because I can't transform you. You must do the transforming, but transformation only in my experience happens when it comes from me. So it's almost like I gotta ask the question that opens you up to a place in yourself that you're like, oh, it's like the question had you turn your head a little bit, and then suddenly you saw something that might have been always there, but because you turned your head, you were like, "Did you see that? Was that always there?" And suddenly it's like this. And so for me, the trick of this process of listening and asking great questions is, what's the question that gets the person to move, right? And I can only get that when I'm like in this with you, right? When it's almost like you say, and the other thing I think that happens, and if you could speak to this, is when I'm truly listening, I'm really searching for the question, because the question just right, because I may search for the like I want to massage how I say it, but it's never that I don't know what to ask, because when I'm truly listening, the question is like it drops in and it's like boom. And when I'm working at it, I'm searching because I'm running ahead of you, attempting to get the question that's going to make me look good or make me sound whatever. But when I'm in it, it's like this.
yes. Yes. So oftentimes it's it's not just the silence that is heaven's gap for the receiver, the recipient, the sharer.
Mm,
It's also the silence is also our heaven's gap where we can, and so I'll just share a few things around that. One is in I want to hear you completely, meaning I'm in the moment with you. Then I'm silent. I'm going to share maybe a little bit about what I've gleaned and the gems that you have offered to me, and I'm going to give you back your wisdom. You
mhm.
shared something, I'm going to give you back your wisdom. In the giving back of your wisdom, that's where my question is formed. My question is not formed when you're sharing. My question is formed when I'm sharing.
Ooh, okay, that is a distinction. Whew, that is a distinction. That's like, okay, let's rewind that. That's going to be a replay.
Oh my gracious. Yes, yes, yes. And
Ah,
distinctions are defining moments. Distinctions are defining moments. And actually, distinction questions accelerate decision. So we haven't gone into that. That's for another time, Ms. Suzanne. We're talking about listening today. We're talking about
You're gonna come back.
questions. We can talk about questions another day. Yeah. What are we hearing on the lines? What is coming?
Stacy loved, she says, listening for emotionally charged words, repetition, a softening, a pause, a thought elevation. Silence is heaven's gap. Silence is heaven's gap went down. People were like, oh, I like that. Taria is saying, yes, suspend judgment. We're not learning when we are talking. We are learning when we're listening. Right? So there's some good ones here. So I wanna kind of summarize kind of some of the stuff that I've heard. So one is I hear you saying before you ever come to a conversation, one is you're going to do some work to clear yourself. And then you're going to put what you need to put over here. And for me, that's my stuff, if you will. Or it could be my last conversation, or it could be my distractions, or it could be all these different things. And then what I'm hearing you say is when you come to the conversation, you're coming to hear, right? To listen and to have the person feel heard. And in order to do so, it's the art, the gift, building the muscle of being present and truly working to hear. And then the last thing is listening, and then when there is that moment, it's asking the question that comes from that moment. Wow. If someone was going to take away something from this live, Grace, what would be, if you said 1, 2, 3, what would be 3 things you'd say, just work on these 3 things?
Okay. Oh my goodness, that's a good question. That's a good question. So this is something that I've been hearing. I heard it strongly last night before I went to sleep, and that is boldness. Mm-hmm. There are going to be questions that come to the surface that scare you to ask.
Oh yeah.
There are going to be questions that come to the surface that scare you, that make you nervous, that you're like, ask them. Because there is a reason that you have curated that question.
Mm-hmm.
So be bold in your ask, and be bold in your listening, and be bold in your presence. Be bold. So those would be the 3. Be bold in your ask, be bold in your listening and hearing, and be bold in your presence.
That is powerful. And I love the fact that you use the word bold, because when I think of bold, I think of courageous, right? And it really is to have the courage to be present and listen to someone like your life and their life depended on what was going to be said. There's a boldness to that. To be bold enough to suspend your judgment and your stuff to be in that moment. But I think the big one you're saying is to be bold enough to ask the sometimes unaskable question, right? And then to create the space for the answer.
Yes, because that's often that boldness, that bold ask could transition someone from a valley to a peak. It could transition and create from a breakdown to a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stretching. See, when we're comfortable, we're not being stretched. It's in the discomfort. That's when we grow the most.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. I mean, you know me, Suzanne. You remember years ago, the extent of my communication and speaking was welcome. We're so happy you're here. Remember that in LA? We're so happy you're here. And that was it. Peace out, people. I want to be in the back. Until created a space and a willingness. It's a will. See, it's the willing.
Mm-hmm.
A will to be stretched. So each day, this will be another one. I'm gonna give you a fourth, is a willingness to say, what would be my stretch for today? What would would bring me slightly beyond what's comfortable for me? And I want you to think about the version of you today doing that slightly beyond comfortable to tomorrow and the next day. Who will you be and how will you show up a week from now,
Mm-hmm.
a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now? Who will you be? That's bold.
That's bold. That's bold. And it is, Patricia, I see her, she's saying, love it. Being bold in your ask, listening and present. So powerful. Des is saying we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So true. Patricia's like, discomfort was where you grow. She's like, yes, yes, yes. And it is so true. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you. And you are probably one of my favorite people to sit and communicate with. Because there's people you sit down with and they instantly stretch you, right? And they instantly, just because of how they are present, you can't help but leave the conversation expanded, right? You can't help but leave the conversation more. And we don't get to see each other very often. Like it's been years since we've connected. But when we do, it's one of those moments where we sit down and I'm like, I'm settling in, girl. We gonna have a moment, and I'm gonna leave transformed. I don't know about anybody else, but and that is, it's such a gift for someone to give you that. So I just want to honor you and say thank you, because every moment with you I've had is I walk away and I go, oh, that's such a special moment. Oh my gosh. So thank you for giving everyone listening a special moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
Iron sharpens iron. And we have such a mutual love and admiration for each other. It's like time stands still in our friendship. And I have a feeling that we're going to see each other very soon.
I hope
and that we're going to get to play in the same sandbox together, Suzanne, because that's just who we be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're overdue, and it's time to create. It's time to create. So, everyone, I see Faye Swenson has joined us. Thank you both. I love listening to Grace. Bless. She was my coach teacher at AUL Academy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's an honor to have this friendship. And I love the work that you're doing and the way that you're contributing to people on a global scale, Suzanne. And so it is an honor to play in this sandbox with you. So
thank you so much. Everyone, we have been listening to Grace Keohohou, business coach, speaker, author, extraordinary woman and one of my friends, someone I'm proud to call a friend. You have been listening to Unstoppable Mindset, and we were talking today about how our conditioning can interrupt our listening. If you're just joining us, hashtag replay. Definitely a must listen. Grace, I know there's probably people going, how do I get to hang out with this beautiful woman? Because seriously,
Seriously. Oh my goodness. Well, it would be an honor to connect with you. I'm on Facebook, Grace Keohohou. You can check out our website, dswa.org. That's the Direct Selling World Alliance. Or you can check out coachwithgrace.com, coachwithgrace.com. So thank you, Suzanne, my dear friend and my mentor. So it's an honor. Thank you all for plugging in.
You are so welcome. And we will continue this conversation because we're going to go to questions.
Yes, we will.
So everyone listening, thank you for joining us. We will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Suzanne Hart. I've been sitting down with business coach Grace Keohohou, and thank you for joining us. If you want to find out more about who we are, and if you want to have more unstoppable conversations, knock on the door of Unstoppable Mindset for Superachievers. Come hang out with us. This is the kind of talk we do, and definitely be part of the conversation. So we will see you back here 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like, share, and thank you. And as we part, please know you are all oh so brilliant. Every one of you is oh so very special. And you're in this conversation because you know the world is waiting. The world is waiting for you to put your gift into the marketplace. Blessings. Take care.